according to the governor's orders, we're allowed to have Zoom meetings and the public is invited. The public's mics will be muted until the host or the host will let the public in. What we do is we're going to have 5 regular members voting on the applications. Today we have 3 alternate members who are here so far. Everybody will speak to the application. Everyone will be heard. And I thought I was going to try something new this week. Since the cases are relatively routine, we've had an example of each one of these before. And since I asked you to all share the reading with me, I thought what I'd do is have each one of you take one of the cases, read it, and maybe take the lead on it. I'll prompt you and I'll help you if you need it, but I think you've all been doing this long enough to try it. Also, maybe the case I assign you will be the case you'll try to write a decision for. And then, again, I'll help you with that. I'll send you a template and we can all see if we can all break into the pattern of all taking some lead, okay? And just to make the alternates really uncomfortable, I thought I would start with the alternates. So, it is 7:15. We can call the first case. And Jillian, I'm going to assign you the first case because I think you're going to have to recuse for the last one, right?
Yes, I am. So 7:15, you're going to call case 950A. The petitioner, Ji Zhang, requests a special permit/variance pursuant to section 17331 for a detached structure at 24 Manchester Drive.
Now, Mr. Zhang, are you here?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, what we'd like you to do is describe your application. Ms. Shaw will help lead you through it. And when you're done, the board members will ask questions first. Then we will see if there are any abutters who want to speak to the application. And you'll be allowed to respond to the questions or speak to the abutters through the chair, or in this case, Jillian, who's going to lead this particular case. Go ahead, Jillian.
Mr. Zhang, if you'd like to present your presentation for the board.
Okay. So can I share my screen?
If you know how to do that.
Yes, Amber has to give him permission.
Okay. Basically, just want to build a detached deck in my backyard above. Start your radio. Start my radio. Okay. There it goes. Can you hear me? Yeah, can you see me?
No. We can still hear you, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. So basically, this appeal just to build a detached deck in my backyard because I have an overhang in the dining room, so I cannot attach the deck to the building. So basically, the deck will be a standalone deck. Yeah.
Okay, and if you can do a plot plan or anything that you can pull up.
Okay, sure. No. Let me open file. Room deck. Screen. Okay, share. Share screen. So here it is. Yeah, this part, this highlighted part, that's a proposed deck.
And can you just tell us the dimensions of the deck and what the setbacks will be once the proposed deck is built?
So the dimension could be like roughly speaking, just like probably 20 by 30.
Okay, so that's different than what we have in our package. So 20 feet off the back of the house, does that include the bump out or not off the house?
Say a question again?
Sure. Would it be, so this is not attached to the house, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it's 20 feet. How far off the house would it start?
Probably like 3 feet from house.
Okay, and that would be 20 feet deep, and then how long would it be?
How long, like along the house?
Yes, the length of the house, how long would it follow? What's the length on it that you're proposing?
Probably 30 feet or this that in that range. Yeah.
Okay. And where would the stairs be that you would access the deck off?
The stairs is from the patio side. Patio side above the deck is like a 1.5 feet difference.
Okay, so once the deck is built at 23 feet, let's say, so 3 feet off the house and 20 feet sides of deck, what would be the back setback, the new setback from the property line?
You mean setback like the edge of the deck to the Rosewood Road?
No, from your abutting lot property at the back.
Or from here, from
Yes,
here to the property line? Probably
Yes.
under the closest point is about like 2 feet from the property line.
No.
Because this
Okay.
is the rectangle, because the property line is not parallel to the house.
correct. And so the deck that you're proposing on the plot plan shows that it's within the building envelope, but you're saying it's beyond that dotted line of the building envelope, it's within 2 feet of your neighbor's lot, is that correct?
Correct, yes. There's so there's a retaining wall there. There's a retaining wall and the deck will above the retaining wall on this side.
And is the retaining wall where the building envelope line is, or is it the retaining wall on the property line?
Retaining wall is about like a one foot away from property line. The property line in the middle between the two retaining walls, because my neighbor has retaining wall as well there. And his
Okay.
retaining wall in this part, and my retaining wall is on this part.
Okay.
The property line in the middle of two retaining walls.
So Sherry, would I ask the board at this point if they have any questions?
So, yes, but before you go on, I'd like to address some procedural things.
Okay.
Very, very good job, Jillian, and thank you, Mr. Zhang, for your presentation. Is it Zheng?
Zen, yeah.
Zhen.
Yeah.
First of all, did you bring this request to the building inspector yet? Or did you come right before?
You mean no.
And second of all, what is the deck going to sit on? I saw there appears to be ledge that you have made a nice stairwell out of that looks like the deck's going to sit on top of that. Is that ledge? What's the deck going to sit on?
The deck will be settling on the gratings.
On what?
On gratings.
You
On-
saying GRATINGS gratings
Yes.
or DINGS
DING. I'll show you another picture.
on the grade? Yeah.
I don't know if it's ledge, Sherry. I think it's retaining walls that were put there to sort of stagger up the property.
What I'm worried about and what I'm struggling with is I don't understand why he's seeking any permits at all if it is going to be a flat assembly of materials in place. A structure is a combination of materials at a fixed location to give support or shelter, such as a building or a retaining wall, 4 feet or more of unbalanced fill, fences, pools, etc. And this is on page 4 of the zoning bylaw. I thought this was going to be a deck attached to the house, which clearly makes it a part of the house. But if it's sitting 3 feet away from the house on land, on flat land, either on those stones or footings, Mark helped me out here and John Sewell, I don't see that it's a structure within the definition of the zoning bylaw.
it's going to be more than 4 feet tall in any way, at least one of the points for the size he's making and the depth of it. It is definitely a structure.
Why are you saying it's 4 feet tall? He's calling it a flat
Because-
patio.
It's not flat.
It's not flat. The stones that he wants to put it on, the drop off is dramatic. There's at least a 6-foot drop off. So he's going
so it has to have railing?
Is going to be more than 4 feet tall.
So we go past that bump out, Sherry, in that photo.
On one side is more than 4 feet tall, but on the other side, probably like only 1.5 tall. About, you know, this. Can you see the picture here?
Yes.
What is 4
this is
feet?
like a grading, like three steps.
I don't,
He would
I
need
don't-
to have a point all the way down below the rocks as well.
No, just
It's gonna be-
above the rocks here.
Yeah, not going to do that.
But may I interrupt for a second?
Go ahead.
I have a real problem with this. There's no plans, there's no drawings, there's no plot plan. The drawing we have is out of scale, makes absolutely no sense.
Okay,
There's no case for
okay,
hardship.
Wait a minute. Could you please state your objections without being confrontational and accusatory? Just tell them what you're missing and what you would like to say.
Mr. Zhang,
Yes.
Thank you.
have a drawing that details height, length, and where exactly it's going to be. You're talking about a freestanding structure that doesn't sound like it would meet building code at all, that you're going to put behind your house, that in areas looks like to me from walking around your property is going to be at least 6 feet tall in some areas. There's no way for us to determine that. You also need to have a case for hardship. You know, why do you need to go within the 15-foot buffer of the setback? Why do you need a deck that is, in your drawing, 29 feet deep? And your drawing is completely
Okay, so back up a
out
minute,
of
please.
scale. It would be good to have a drawing that's to scale and shows your lot lines to scale.
Go back up a minute, please. Mr. Zhang, could you please go back to the sketch drawing of your proposed, you're calling it a deck. Go back to that for a minute, please.
This one?
Okay. Yeah, what I want to point out, I just want to point out a couple of things to you and to the board. First of all, while this looks like the building envelope, Jillian, if you look at the distance from the back of Mr. Zhang's house on the westerly side to the lot line, I read that number to be around 26 feet.
29.6.
If this map is to scale, that dotted line to the solid lot line is not 15. A building envelope would have that distance be 15. And if Mr. Zhang's depth on this deck is 29, I understand that the lot line is angling, but he's going to be within 2 feet of lot line. So Cheryl is correct. This is not to scale. And I noticed, pardon me?
Yeah, it's not scaled in
Yeah.
detail for this one.
Now, the other thing that Cheryl pointed out to you, Mr. Zhang, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the zoning bylaw and Massachusetts law, this board only has power to grant a variance if you can meet certain conditions. Now, first of all, I'm still troubled by whether or not this needs a building permit at all, because while you're all saying it might be 6 feet up in the air from the bottom of that stone rock retention area, that doesn't make it a 6 foot tall supporting structure under our definition, as far as I'm concerned. I would like the building inspector to opine on that, whether or not that needs to be permitted at all because of that what I'm seeing is he doesn't fit within the definition of structure with what he's just described. Maybe if you put railings on it, now you're talking about something with support, and I have to defer to the building inspector on that. But from the drawing that was, submitted, it looked as though it was going to be attached to the house, so it clearly was sent to this board for a variance because of that.
Would you like us to read? Oops, sorry.
If it doesn't require the zoning board's permission, if you will, because it's not a structure, I'm pretty sure he can lay, a wood dance floor down anywhere he wants to, is what I'm hearing him say. But if it does satisfy the definition of structure, then Mr. Zhang, we have issues about the variance conditions having to be met. The variance conditions are that you have to have a hardship owing to soil shape or topography of your land that makes your lot unique and not like any other, and that not granting this variance would give you a hardship, and that it can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good or derogation from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about to the board, Cheryl and I talked about it when we viewed this, is that the reason for worrying about the distance to a setback is because there is a theory in the law that says race to the lot line should not be allowed. So if Mr. Zhang is allowed 2 feet from his lot line, he precludes the back neighbor from coming that close to the lot line when the back neighbor wants a deck, because there is a requirement to separate structures for fire safety. So let me start again, please, and then anybody else can speak, but I just want to put in context what I'm worried about on this procedurally. Number one is I'm not sure a detached dance, I'm going to call it a dance floor for lack of a better word, only because we don't know what it is yet. We haven't got plans, as Cheryl said, and we're going to need detailed plans. But to put a dance floor down on my lawn, I don't really need anyone to give me permission. If that's what he's doing, he may not need to be here at all. If that is a structure and it's got unbalanced fill and it's over 4 feet high, and the building inspector says because of the railings it meets the building code, then Mr. Zhang needs to satisfy us about the criteria for a variance. And I'm not sure just because you want a big deck, that's a hardship. So Cheryl is accurate when she says, get closer to meeting the 15-foot setback. If because of the slant in the lot line, you need a little bit overlap, maybe we could listen to this. Anybody else? Now I'm done.
Do you want us to read into the records that building can?
Can I have something to say? So a couple of things come to mind. First of all, I think it becomes a structure because it's a rather large wooden thing that's going to have some long legs on it, at least on a couple of sides. And on the front side toward Rosewood Road, you're going to have railings because you're going to be more than 3 feet off the drop off from it. So now you have to have railings, and they have to be 3.5 feet high and no more than 4 inches apart and all that kind of stuff. So it becomes a wood structure. The issue here, though, is, like Sherry said, I don't see it as a major issue that needs to have this. He could solve the problem by using some concrete retaining walls and some fill and put a stone patio in instead. And the stone patio could go right up to the property line with nobody's permission and solve all his problems and not need to go to us, because I don't see any hardship in the fact that he doesn't have a solution to his problem of having a large deck. I also agree that the submission should be to scale. It should have dimensions on it to the property lines. When we asked him how large it was going to be, we didn't get direct answers. The numbers he gave, distances he gave were different than the distance we have on the drawing that was sent to us, which says 29 and 24. Like you say, we need to have a complete set of drawings that show what you plan to do. You can't put a set of legs holding up a deck sitting on top of those stone walls. That's not going to meet anybody's requirements. The building inspector wouldn't allow it. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, next, Julian, take back the lead. Anyone else?
Sure. I'm going to read into the record the building inspector's comments on this.
Yes, go ahead.
So 24 Manchester Drive from Ed Mullen. It says the existing structure less than 10 years old, is not compliant with the setback requirement. Grading of the request variance 173-31 for the deck addition should be include curing the non-compliance of the existing structure to the rear of the setback.
Really?
Now, I don't see a violation to the rear. It's a 15-foot rear setback, and I don't see any violation there. So I'm not sure what the building inspector meant by that.
I agree.
Anyone else? Pardon me?
I agree with you. I don't see any, the existing structure seems to be well within the setback requirements.
That's what I thought.
And I have a question. If the applicant has not requested a building permit, shouldn't that be the first step? He requests a building permit, then if he gets denied, he would come to us. Because
Yes.
like you say, he may get approval from the building inspector.
No,
Yeah.
I talked to people from building department. They said based on my deck size, I need to file a appealing first.
So
So
Can I
why
help
do you
you
need,
now? Can Mr. Zhang? I
Yes,
hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
yes.
It looks like to me you could stay within your building setback and still have a deck that was 24 by 16 or 18 even, perhaps with the way the angle goes. Have you thought about doing that? And then you wouldn't even need a variance?
So you mean what's the width?
You could stay 15 feet away from your rear back line and still have a deck that's 24 feet wide and 16 feet deep, it looks like. I'm guesstimating, maybe because of the angle, even 18 feet deep, and still stay within the allowed footprint and not need a variance from us. And that's a pretty big deck, don't you think?
you watching us?
Let me check.
Hang on. The meeting ID is 998-4400.
So, Mr. Zhang, Sherry's just giving directions to a member that's having trouble getting on. So, but if you look at your setbacks, you can stay 15 feet away from your setback and still have quite a large deck. Have you thought of that?
195.
Not really. I just the deck, the size based on the measurements, from the property line, and I just gave that size to the building department. So they said I need to file appealing for the variance.
That the 29 by 24 is a very large deck. So you might want to reconsider or think about that. We, as a board, we really hesitate to get 2 feet off a lot line for anyone because of maintenance and other issues. So
I think the building inspector is calling in. That was the call. He needed the ID, and I think he's coming in now. So if we can just pause for a moment and everybody take a deep breath. I think the building inspector was listening somehow and might have some input. Janet, is he looking to get in?
He's in.
Good. You want to call him?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Jillian. Ed Mullen, Building Inspector. I just tried to call in. Sorry about the confusion. It's my fault on the ruling as far as the house not meeting the setback. When I had enlarged the plan, I had flipped it on my computer, so I thought that was the frontage. So there's no issue there. A detached structure more than 30 inches off the ground requires a building permit.
Oh, why is this 30 inches off the ground? It's sitting on the ground.
If it's
ground-
I keep
But only
I-
one side.
In elevation, what I'm hearing is that in some locations it's going to be as high as 6 feet off the ground and supported. If that's the case, it would require a permit. It would be considered a detached accessory structure if it's more than 30 inches off the ground.
Okay.
Okay, all right, that answers that. Okay, and then Mr. Zheng, why do you need a deck this large? Is there something owing to your lifestyle, your family situation, or anything that requires a deck this large?
Just to use that space. because I have a very large patio there, and normally I don't access this area, to going down to the Rosewood side.
Yeah.
I just want to build a deck there so I can use that space a little bit, because I have a very small backyard and a large front yard and the side.
So also the way you describe this, if it is truly detached, there's only a 10-foot setback to the back line to keep you in conformity with the bylaw. So Cheryl, you were working on a 15-foot number. But if he only requires a 10-foot setback because this is detached, I think he's got 26 minus 10 is 16. And then he wants to be 3 foot away from the house. He's probably only got 14. Well, probably got 16 or 18 feet at that side of the house and still meet a 10-foot setback without needing a variance.
I'm having a hard time thinking that a building permit would be, I don't know, Mr. Mullins, hop in here, but a freestanding deck next to a house yet not attached to a house, that kind of footings and situations doesn't seem like something that would be favorable or safe or whatever. I keep thinking it would have to be attached to the house, but I guess you can build anything. So I don't think we can approve anything that isn't with much more drawings and much more detailed presentation. I can't see voting for anything like this without getting more details, please, sir.
And Jillian, go out to any other board members.
Any other board members have comment?
Yeah, I agree with some of the previous comments. I mean, we really have no idea how big this structure is. We have drawings that say one thing, we got testimony that indicates other things. Without a real drawing of what is planned to be built and dimensioned, from the lot lines and such, is really, no way to make a decision, much less write one up. And the other thing, you correct me, Ed, I want to say some of the new deck regulations, they don't want it attached to a house because there are structural issues involved. They actually want a deck pretty much self-supported.
The code doesn't require it to be connected to the house. It can be or it can't be. They're not discerning whether one's better than the other.
So it sounds like this one.
Yeah, the code is the minimum standard.
Yeah. So it sounds like this one, it won't be attached to the house, but it will be right up against it. So, but
Right.
like I said, I think without adequate drawings, specifically what they're planning to build, there's no way to approve or disapprove the request.
Correct. I mean, on the building permit side, I would need the drawing showing the dimensions of the lumber, elevation, depth of footing, attachments, wind bracing, hurricane requirements. There's a lot that's missing from this just to approve, on a building permit side.
So Mr. Mullen, without putting you on the spot, if it's truly a detached deck and you get all of the building requirements satisfied, are you in agreement that he can get within 10 feet of the back lot line?
That is correct. The separation in the building code is not defined. It can be down to literally 1 millimeter.
We may ask the planning board to readdress that, because that seems like a loophole that we should pay attention to.
Yeah,
No, it's been there for a long time.
yeah.
Well, if it's considered an accessory structure, then it's 10 feet. Right.
Yeah, and in any event, just see if there are any abutters who came to the hearing that would like to be heard.
Or are there any butters that are in the meeting that would like to be heard?
And I'm going to recommend that we continue this hearing to allow Mr. Zhang to bring in any additional or supporting information and detail he would like. I think it needs to go to a meeting one-on-one with Mr. Zhang and the building inspector, because I think together they can parse through what might be a satisfactory sized deck without needing a variance, as as the board seems to indicate the members are not satisfied that there's the necessary requisite hardship to grant a variance to the lot line setback in this particular instance. You might convince us otherwise, but I think at this point in time, I'd like to give you a continuance to enable you to look a little closer at the issues.
There are no hands raised in the audience.
Okay. Mr. Zhang, how does that sit with you?
So I just want to know what's the limitation for the deck based on the regulations? How far from the property line?
Is 10 feet what we've sort of,
10 feet if it's an accessory structure not attached to the house. 15 feet if it is attached to the house.
I think really you should go visit with the building, get a meeting with the building inspector, sit down with him, and he'll walk you through all the information you need to know about.
So
Yeah.
can I make appointment with the building department and to come to the site?
that
So
you would
should
want to
we-
call them directly and make that appointment.
Okay,
Tomorrow morning.
And
sure, I can
Should-
call them anytime. Yeah.
so should we close the hearing?
Yeah, we can close. We can close now. I'll call the building department.
Sorry, deliberate. Is that what I'm doing, Sherry?
No, we're going
We're gonna,
to,
yeah.
we're going to continue this to a time and date certain to allow Mr. Zhang to do one of two things. Either gather the additional material that the board wants and come back to us next month, or have a satisfactory meeting with the building inspector, and you and she can tell the administrative assistant that you wish to withdraw your appeal because it's not necessary any longer.
Do we
Yeah, I
have
just-
to
I
vote
just-
on the continuance?
But we
I
leave
just
the
want to know the
case,
size of the size of the the size of the deck I can build in backyards.
yeah, so you meet with the building inspector and he will look at your plans to determine if you are attached or detached, and then he can give you that answer.
Okay, so once I'm satisfied with the size, so I will bring up with a detailed design for the deck and for building permit.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the size allowance is too small, probably I just don't do it.
Or you can come back and tell us what hardship there is for you that you need a bigger size. We're going to keep this hearing open. You've paid your money to be heard. We will allow you to be heard with additional detail at the next meeting. If you are unsatisfied with the building inspector meeting that you have, you can come back
Okay.
to us another time. Okay?
Okay, so they can, if I call them, so they will come to the site.
You'll have to determine that with the building department, but I imagine that he would be amenable to that.
Okay, sure. I
Okay.
can call them.
Okay, so, Janet, can we have a time and date certain for this?
Yes, let's do November 19th at 7:30.
November 19th.
And,
I move we continue the hearing to November 19th at 7:30.
was that Rod?
Yes.
Second that, please.
I'll second that, Mark Saucier.
All those in favor signify by saying, roll call vote, John Sewell,
Don Sewell, aye.
Rod,
Rod Stewart, yes.
Mark,
Mark Saucier, yes.
Cheryl,
Cheryl Kelly Hollinger, yes.
and Sherry Gould, yes. All right, Mr. Zhang, I hope it all goes well with the building inspector and you get the relief you're looking for. If not, we'll see you at the next meeting with a little more detail on your plans drawn to scale and perhaps a picture of what the deck looks like, from each side, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Good night.
Julie?
I
Julie?
apologize Sherry, I apologize for being on the move there. My computer started to run out of power.
Okay. Are you
I'm gonna
all
get-
right now?
Yep.
Okay. Jillian, I'd ask you to take the lead on the next case, please.
Sure. So it is 7:50, open the case.
I'm sorry. Jillian, I'm sorry. I meant to say Kitty. I meant.
Okay,
Kitty, can I ask you, please?
All right, didn't know I was on the spot tonight. So the next case is 951A for 19 Colonial Drive, brought by Joanne Atridge. Are you there, Ms. Atridge?
Attridge, but yes, I am.
Atridge, excuse me.
No
Let me
problem.
just state what it is. Requesting a special permit or a variance pursuant to section 17310 and 17331 for a pre-existing non-conforming structure at 19 Colonial. Kitty.
Like to know, we would like to build a shed in the back corner of our yard. I'm not sure, do you all have the documents that we submitted? Would you like me to display the plot plan?
Yes, please.
Okay. Fighting me, hold on.
I'm sorry, Sherry, just procedurally, you mentioned 17310, but the documents I have only reference 17331.
So let me explain to the board, all of you.
Thank you.
17310 is a statute or a bylaw that says a special permit can be granted for change, extension, or alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming structure. This particular property is non-conforming, I believe, in that it does not have a full acre of land. Am I right about that, Ms. Adrich?
That's true.
And I think that's the only place it's non-conforming. But because of that, a special permit gives us a little more leniency. Now, if you are adding any dimensional variances that are not there currently, you have to switch to a variance. And so she rightfully applied for a variance, but I always have the publication and the notice go out for either. So our board, if appropriate, can reduce it to the lesser rigid standard if it meets it. This one happens to be variance, Kitty. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for clarifying that, Sherry.
Okay, so this is the plot plan for our property. And you can see the shed. This is as best to scale as I could get it. We want to put down an 8x10 shed in that back, that is the southeast corner of the property. It would have be 2 feet from the Fausts who are next door to us and 6 feet from the Drews who are on the east side. We just want the shed for storage. We looked at various other places we could put it in our property. Unfortunately, our septic leaching field causes the bump in the middle of our main backyard. And so there's really pretty steep slopes going down on the north, east, and west sides of the property. So this is really the only flat place that we could place the shed.
Again, I have one procedural question before you proceed, and that is Mr. Mullins still on the phone? No. I thought at one.
Yep, here he is, Sherry.
Okay. Sorry. Mr. Mullin?
Yes.
I thought at some time I had a discussion with the prior building inspector that a certain size shed that is not on a foundation, but rather sitting on the ground or on gravel and movable is not subject to the building code. Do you know the size on that, or did they never pass that? Was it
No,
just
you were provided the correct information. A building permit isn't required under the building code if it's under 200 square feet. That being said, our zoning is what requires the building permit.
Thank you. Okay, just for future reference, I'd like to know that. And so now, because it's an accessory structure and it's detached, we have 10-foot side and back setbacks, right?
Correct.
Okay, Kitty, go.
So I also see, Mr. Mullen, you noted that there may be some other mitigating factors such as topography and slope that may prevent access to the proposed accessory structure outside of the proposed location.
Correct.
So does that mean that there may be other?
So without a plan showing the topography of the land and the location of the septic, I did review the septic plan and noticed the slope on the three sides as the applicant had addressed the board. That those could be mitigating factors as why she wants to locate it here.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did drive by the property and noted the amount of hilly area on the property. There's not a lot of flat area without trespassing on the property that I could observe where a shed could be easily located.
I also did supply photos and I could pull those up if you'd like to see them.
Sherry, is that okay?
Sure.
Would you like me to do that? Sure. All right, can you see that? I'm still not sure what Zoom is showing and what it's not showing.
Yes, it's there.
Okay, so looking north along Colonial Drive, you can see the slope there. So Colonial Drive is along the top left of that photo to the left. And then on the right, this is the northwest corner of our property looking back towards the house. And you can see that the slope going up here, going across our main lawn. This is the house you can see very slightly over here on the right-hand side. From the north side of the property, looking back towards the house, you can see the house on the lower left. This is the slope going up towards our lawn, and then standing in the same spot, but facing west towards towards Colonial Drive, you can see that slope. Any questions with those? I can go on to the next page.
None of those are view from the proposed site. Okay,
Not yet.
just clarifying.
Yep. All right, so on the next page, you see the proposed site. This is the corner of the yard where these vines are crawling on the ground is where the shed would be placed. You can see this is the middle view is standing at the back of our house, facing south towards the Faust's property. Their house is behind all that shrubbery that there's and those trees. And if you look, it's kind of hard to take a photo of, but you can see our house on the right-hand photo. On the left-hand side of that photo, there's actually a hill that goes up at a pretty steep angle, and that goes up to the Drews property that's probably 20, 25 feet above the level of our property. So it would be very difficult. One of the reasons we chose this position as well is that nobody's going to be able to see it. So it's hidden from view. It's also hidden from view from the street as well.
Kitty, may I ask a question?
Of course.
All right. Mrs. Attridge?
Attridge, yes.
Mrs. Attridge. Actually talked to your husband as we talked through your backyard, looking at the location.
Yep.
My biggest concern is that you're within 2 feet of your property line, which makes maintenance, mowing, controlling foliage, all of those things very difficult to do when you're without going onto your neighbor's property. And as I said to your husband, we try to worry about the long term. We try to, you get along beautifully with your neighbors and you're a very nice person, but the two of you may not always be there. So
Understood.
that is a concern. It looked like to me that the building could be moved forward a foot or two and still fulfill your needs, still allow room for a lawnmower to get between your house and the grassy area and all of that, still give you adequate passageway, and get you a little further away from the property line. personally, I like to see people 3 or 4 feet from a property line so they can put a lawnmower through, so they can walk through, they can put up a ladder to repair a roof. They can do all those things without having to trespass on their neighbors. Would you, if this board was willing to grant a variance for such thing, would you consider moving it a little bit further away from the property line?
Yes, I would. And we placed it where we did because we didn't want to stick out into our property too far. And because really everything behind it is just growth, right? So there's certainly no grass that would need to be mown. I certainly understand keeping the foliage back. I don't think the shed's going to require much maintenance. We don't have any windows or anything on that side. The door is going to face our yard. Oh, excuse me. But so it wouldn't be our preference to do that, but certainly if it was required to get the variance, absolutely, we'd pull it in a foot.
That is my concern. I'm concerned about, your husband explained to us that the gravel pad that is down is actually the gravel pad is only a foot off the property line.
It's just a little bit more than a foot, yeah.
And then the structure sits on that gravel pad.
Yeah, at least another foot over, right?
Right. So I personally, having looked at this, would be much more comfortable with at least a 3 foot or 4 foot setback. And that's all I want to say.
Other board members, Kitty?
So thank you, Cheryl, for pointing that out. Ms. Etheridge, what would be the maximum amount of space that you might be able to bring that forward in response to Cheryl's question about, even if you don't want to, just in terms of what space is available in terms of the slope?
The slope in this area is fine. It's flat. We have been able, if you look in that middle picture, the mulch goes up a little bit. We've flattened out that whole area so that we do have a level surface for the shed. I would say because the shed actually moves, if you look at that middle picture, it moves into our grass area some. So I prefer not to pull it too far into the grass because it would stick out. I don't want people banging into it as they walk through around this corner. But so I'd certainly say it's probably more than 2 feet right now. It's probably not 3. I certainly could move it to 3.5 feet, but I prefer not to take it any further out than that.
I would be comfortable with 3.5 feet off a property line. I think that's enough space to put up a ladder. If a limb comes through the roof and you have to fix the roof over there, there's enough space to put up a ladder to do it in 3.5 feet where it's a single story structure. I think that that's a 3.5 feet is a figure I'm very comfortable with personally, but the other board members have to see what they say.
Thank you, Cheryl. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. I toured the site myself this afternoon. And I agree that most of the lot, because of the septic system and the slopes that were incurred building the septic system coming off the 3 sides of it, preclude putting a shed in those areas. And this is probably the best spot on site. The neighbor in the back is, like she says, 20 feet up to their driveway. They won't even know the shed's there. And the neighbor on the other side, the close lot line, there's so much woods and stuff that it'd be well hidden. And pulling it forward a foot or so away from that close lot line would meet, I think, everybody's requirements about having egress space around it, even if you don't have to do anything on the backside. It's nice to be able to walk around it. 10, 15 years from now, it'll need a coat of paint or something. And it'd be nice to be able to do that without having to ask your neighbor permission to walk on their property to paint your shed. So I see that they have a hardship in putting it anywhere else on the lot, and this seems to be the best spot for it.
Thank you, John. Anybody else?
I walked the property today. I saw John while he was there. We were passing away. I did walk around that corner. They definitely tucked that shed into that corner very well. It was very difficult. You could not see it from the street. You could only see it if you were walking up in there. And I did note that the property above them is quite a bit of ways. So we talked in the last case about 2 feet being further away, but I don't believe that's an issue. since the property above them is a good distance up the hill. And I think 3 feet, I think they could get away with 2 feet, but I think 3 feet, if that people feel more comfortable with that, I wouldn't have an issue with that.
I think the property up the hill, they're actually 6 feet off that property line. And that property line 6 feet doesn't bother me at all.
Right, it's the Faust property that's only the 2 feet.
Yeah, I mean, right now there's nice woods there, and that neighbor and they are friendly and seem to have a relationship of that's supporting this. But I worry about you might not get such a nice neighbor next time.
I can see your point. If they wanted to put up a fence or something, you're right, there could be an issue there.
Yep.
Correct.
This is also a portable, it's basically a semi-portable structure. I mean, it's, would not be beyond the means of someone that needed to move it at a later point in time of moving it, but it not going to have a foundation.
That is true.
So I want to weigh in if you don't mind.
Please.
I also was there. Cheryl and I walked around and talked to your husband, Mrs. Attridge. Nice guy, good sense of humor.
He was running off to take one of my kids to a soccer practice, so.
And Mr. Faust happened to be out mowing his lawn, or one of his kids. I don't know who that was, but I've been on the board a lot of years, and we allowed one of these one time, and it occurred to me that I should have put a condition on it that the foliage remain on that 2 foot side if we give you the 2 feet. For the reason that if neighbors change and everything and the trees come down, it's no longer looking like it's tucked into a nice little wooded private alcove. And I don't think it would cost you that much to keep an evergreen or something in there to keep it a natural screening barrier. But also, I'm just concerned about this, and I don't know if you've given it any thought. A lot of people contract to do these 8x10 sheds because the price is right and whatever company you went to has that as a size. I think if you went lengthwise along that 6 foot setback side with a little bit narrower shed than 10, you'd get a lot more storage space, maybe a double door situation, and be able to pull it off more than 2 feet off that back side. And I don't know if you've given any thought to that, but as I stood there looking at your property, it looked like it lended itself very well to a longer, narrower structure.
So I thought about that. I will say I went to a number of different companies and looked at the different sizes. And generally when you get to the longer rectangular sheds, they're much bigger than 8x10s. Yeah. So you can get, a 10 by 14, but I couldn't find like a 6 foot wide shed. That was 6. You could get like a 6 by 8, but you couldn't really get a 6 by 10, right? So it's just the way that they make the sheds. In addition, there is, I don't know if you look at that right-hand picture, I don't want to whack into that tree. All right, so there is that tree there that's on the right-hand picture, on the left-hand side of that picture on the right, you can see that big tree. And I don't want to, actually, I guess it's a tree that's further back than that. There is a tree that is within probably 3 feet of where we're placing the shed. So I didn't want to have to cut down the pine tree. It's a really big pine tree.
I actually applaud keeping the foliage between your neighbors and your shed, but it looked like to me from where your husband described the pad that all the foliage behind where on your property had already been trimmed back and right up to the property line. So there was no more foliage on your property, that all the foliage that still existed which would be behind the shed is at this point on your neighbor's property. Am I seeing that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know how to ask her to amend her proposal to 3.5 feet, Sherry. Would you like to walk us through that?
No, I'm not sure that the board is all in agreement that it needs to be pulled back 3.5 feet. You had 2 people concur. I'm of the opinion that because it's a shed, because it's a movable shed, and because it's tucked so nicely in this corner where we all agree, and Ms. Attridge has described maybe the only place that makes sense for the size. I'm not sure making it 2 feet or 3 feet is a big deal. And I'm not sure I'm inclined to say, let her amend it. Let the motion contain it if somebody, I mean, Kitty, poll the board and see what they want to do and then let the motion contain it.
Certainly. Any other comments before we move to that part of it?
Yeah, if I could weigh in real quick.
Please.
It's a fairly small structure, but 2 feet for any structure is kind of small. So I would go with 3 feet, not only to satisfy zoning, well, satisfy a variance, but also any structure, you want to make sure there's adequate airflow around it. Just looking at your pictures, this looks like a very shaded place. I have a feeling in 3 or 4 years, you're going to have a moss covered roof and back of it. So the more you can get it away from not only the property line, but any foliage or anything like that, so that it can get a fair amount of sun and get air, will help the longevity of that shed. But again, getting back to the zoning requirements, yeah, I would go along with a 3 foot off the property line.
I would agree with the 3 feet as well.
Okay.
Kitty, see if there's any butters, please.
Are there any abutters who have shown up to weigh in on this?
Katie, I'm not,
And can we read the letter of the abutter into the record at this point?
There are no hands raised, Kitty.
Thank you.
Apologize, I'm sorry. Nick Fost has his hand raised.
Mr. Fost?
Hi, good evening.
Good
Hi.
evening.
Yes, my wife and I are the abutters to the south. We discussed this with Brock and Jody, and we have no concerns with the placement of the shed. No concerns with the 2 foot setback, but certainly understand the board's perspective from a, long-term outlook. So I just wanted to chime in that, we have no concerns.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bieber.
Will your presence substitute for reading your letter into the record, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Kitty, it's all yours.
Okay. Anything further from Mr. Mullen?
There is a second letter.
There is? Oh, there was an email.
From Jim Drew.
Okay, you want to read that in, please, Kitty?
Sure. This is from, thank you for pointing that out. So this is from Mr. Drew, one of the abutters, to Joanne. Hi, Jody. Absolutely no issue at all on our side. I've been thinking about a shed for years, but haven't pulled the trigger yet. Do you also want me, Sherry, to read the email from Brock and Jody to Mr. Drew?
No, that's sufficient. We heard
Just
from
the
abutter.
answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask for motion to close the hearing then.
You want to read in Mr. Mullen's comments?
I think she paraphrased them. Kitty paraphrased them in the narrative,
Correct.
so we don't need to read them in now.
Okay, I'll move that we close the hearing.
I'll second that. Mark Saucier.
All those in favor, roll call vote, please. Rod,
Rod Stewart, yes.
Mark,
Mark Saucier, yes.
John,
John Sewell, yes.
Cheryl,
Cheryl Callie Hollinger, yes.
Sherry Gould, yes. Okay, the hearing is closed. Do we want to deliberate or go right to a motion?
But don't we need to maybe discuss for a second, we're gonna pass motion as is, or do we want to require a larger setback?
Why don't you go with a motion and we'll see what the board does with it? We've discussed it. John, you want to word it?
So I move that the board provide a variance to 19 Colonial Drive, request for in 173-31 for a 8 by 10 foot shed placed 2 foot from the let's look at the map here, from the left property line and 6 foot from the rear property line. And that, I don't need anything else.
Unless you're gonna change that to 3 feet.
No, I'm happy to let it go as 2, but that's why I was saying,
Okay.
if you want to suggest it.
I would propose amendment to 3.
I would agree.
Anyone want to second the motion on the floor, please? John's motion on the floor. Does anyone want to second that? Okay, does anyone want to amend it? Cheryl's amendment is
I
to
would
change
amend that,
2 foot to 3.
grant the variance to be 6 feet on one side and no less than 3 feet on the other side.
Well, let's say what sides, please. You want 6 feet on the
Rear,
easterly and
And no less than 3 feet on the southerly.
okay. Got a second to that one?
I'll second that.
Who was that? Rod?
Rod, yeah.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of that one, roll call vote, please. Rod,
Stewart, yes.
Cheryl,
Cheryl Kelly Hollinger, yes.
Mark,
Mark Saucier, yes.
John,
John Sewell, yes.
and Sherry Gould, yes. Whoever is writing this one, you need to recite in the narrative the conditions for a variance, soil shape and topography, and I'll give you a template to go on. All right, Kitty?
Excellent. I think
And-
that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck, Mrs. Attridge. I hope you enjoy your new shed.
Thank you,
Oh, wait,
Mrs. Attridge.
Before we quit here, we need to remind you that people have the right to 20-day hold on before you can build it and then not complain.
Yeah, when you go to get your building permit, the building inspector will advise you that there's a 20-day appeal period. Any abutter who is, wants to can appeal this decision, and he will not issue the variance until 20 days have passed from the date the decision is filed. Okay?
And thank you, Mr. Fost, for being a good neighbor and coming in.
And thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, Mark, how about if you take the next one, please?
Oh, I thought the clerk had special dispensation not to have to do this, but okay. Okay, the next case, scheduled for 7:45 PM, case 952A. The petitioner, Dana McKeel, requests a special permit / variance pursuant to section 173-10 and 173-31 for a pre-existing non-conforming structure on 11 Lakeshore Drive. And is Mr. McKeel,
Yep. Can you hear me?
oh, there you are, you're right in the middle.
Okay. I can see you all, so I don't know if you can see me and hear me. So Linda Lord, 11 Lakeshore Drive, would like to remove her existing 1-car garage and create a new new 2-car garage so that she can keep the stuff that's in the 1-car garage plus put her vehicle now in the new proposed 2-car garage. She's getting older and would like to age in place, and this is what she would like is proposing. What we were doing is, I don't know if you guys have the packet in front of you with a plot plan. I can show you it, but basically what we were proposing to do is move the garage from the back property setback from 3.4 to 5.5. So literally moving the garage forward 2 feet, then additionally moving it to the left 4 feet to get it away from the staircase that's presently there, and to remove it from the back because there's a chain link fence as well as a tree in the back property that we like to save so that we wouldn't have to cut that down to put the foundation in for the new proposed garage. And I have pictures as well. I don't know if you guys have been out to the site, but I can show you. Here's the present 1-car garage right now. And the tree on the side elevation is this tree right here, that we're talking about trying to preserve. And so the garage itself would move 2 feet this way. And then at the same time, as I was saying, the present garage here would move 4 feet the other way away from the house so that you have access coming down the stairs into the new garage space.
Once again, Mark, I'm going to just interrupt for procedural. This is brought either as a special permit, change, extension, or alteration of a pre-existing nonconformity. The lot is non-conforming in that it has an undersize, which is less than an acre, and it currently has a dimensional variance violating the rear setback, so that's a nonconformity. However, because they are adding more lineal distance, they're reducing the current nonconformity, but the new garage will still be non-conforming to the rear lot line. We have to shift from the easier special permit provisions to the variance provisions, because we have to find that there are conditions owing to soil shape or topography that make it a hardship to put this garage anywhere else on the lot, and that the woman needs the garage because of the aging in place argument that the applicant's representative just presented to us. Okay?
Okay.
Go further.
Should I read into the account, the building inspector's comments?
I'd like you to ask the board questions first, and then the comments from a building inspector, and then a butters.
Okay. The main question I have, and perhaps you already answered it, but I don't see it again. I've got your drawing in front of me. What is the current setback of the garage from the property line?
3.4 feet,
And the new one will be,
5.5 feet.
okay.
I would,
Here's, I don't know, if you can see, I highlighted the green is the new structure and the orange is the existing structure with the dimensions.
So I have a question.
Yep.
What's to prevent you from moving the garage forward further? Because you're going to get it to 5.5.
Yep.
What's to prevent you from moving it further, that it's detached another 4.5 feet to get the 10-foot clearance from the rear property line?
Well, what I didn't do, and I should have taken a picture of, and I proposed that to Linda as well, she'd rather keep it in the back part of the property line because her front faces the lake, and she didn't want to lose her yard to the garage space. It's just the view that you have there, and she has, I wonder if I took it, this, I don't know if you can see it, but there's tables and chairs and all her yard area, because she can look out into the lake right there. She would like to keep, oh, here's a better picture of the space of all that area. And that was the reason why she wanted to keep the garage in that location.
I just have to tell you that when we went down to see it, across the street, there is no house, and we saw a man lounging, just relaxing beautifully on a lawn chair by his truck, enjoying that same view that she's trying to preserve. So I respect that.
Yeah, yeah.
also, if she were to pull it that far forward, she does have a neighbor behind her who might start to block. By keeping it back, tucked again near that wall, it seems like she's limiting the possible blockage of the neighbor's view behind her.
Yeah, because that also has that neighbor also has a raised septic system as well. So the backyard's raised in that area. So keeping it back there keeps it, less obtrusive to the lake.
I want to real quick say thank you for, as always, your plans and drawings are very thorough and complete, and it's very easy to tell what you're trying to do.
Thank you. I just don't have the technology like the other two could put it up on the screen. I'm not good with that, but I could show you through the camera anyways.
No, the packets what you're showing us is all in our packets. We
Yeah,
have
okay.
it all.
Okay, good,
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah. Maybe
Okay.
next time, I think I got another one coming up or another two coming up. So next time I'll figure out how to do it on the computer as well.
Okay, I'm a little confused with that,
Yep.
with the garage being pulled forward.
Yep.
It's on the side of the house, and isn't the view through the front of the house, from the front of the house?
It is through the front of the house, but it's actually the entertainment, if you will. In other words, like I was trying to show you, there's a chairs and a fire pit and all that. They use that side of the yard, almost like a backyard, as some normal, normal life of other people that don't have a view of a beautiful lake across the street.
Yeah, but you're talking 4.5 more feet. I guess I'd have to think that maybe is not a big deal.
Rod, the yard is really quite small.
Yeah.
I know, I've seen it, and I have Google Earth up here, and I see a car, it looks like the driveway is over 3 cars deep, even if to the garage, if it was moved forward, so just wondering.
Is the height of the new garage the same as the existing, or?
It's going to go up about 2 to 3 feet, just because of the width of the garage now being a 2-car garage, but it's still in keeping with the same roof pitch as the the present garage. So it's not that it's any steeper, it's the same angle. It's just that it is a wider structure. And it's about as low as you really can go.
Is that likely to impede the view of the house behind it?
The house behind it, they have a slider and it's over to the left-hand side. So, and there's a trees in the backyard that I spoke about earlier. So it kind of screens the garage anyways.
I think if it came forward, it would still probably be the same issue. Height, if it was restricting.
Hey, Mark, you want to see if there's any abutters who want to speak to it?
Okay, are there any abutters in this evening's meeting that would like to speak to this case?
There are no hands raised.
And would you read the building commissioner's comments?
Okay, the building commissioner did provide a comment on this. 11 Lakeshore Drive, 173-31. The variance request for the garage does not increase a non-conformity. In fact, it decreases it by 2 feet, moving the proposed garage 5 feet 4 inches from the rear property line.
Thank you. Anyone wish to close the hearing?
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close, second, please.
I'll second that. Mark Saucier.
And poll vote, please. All those in favor. Cheryl.
Cheryl Kelly-Hollinger, aye.
Mark.
Mark Saucier, yes.
John.
John Sewell, yes.
Rod.
Rod Stewart, yes.
And Sherry Gould, yes. Okay, deliberation, or someone want to move right to a motion?
I can make a motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we grant case 952A, it's a request for variance pursuant to section 173-31. Is that right?
Yep.
Thank you. For a pre-existing non-conforming structure to be as shown substantially on plan dated September 2nd, 2020, and labeled, looking for a number.
There isn't one.
You can just say submitted with the application.
Submitted with the application.
I'm going to just change your motion slightly. I want you to say to grant a variance to replace an existing garage with a new 2-car garage, substantially as shown on the, okay?
Yes. You want me to repeat that?
No, they got it.
Thank you.
Do I have a second to that motion? Oh, do we
I'll
have the
second it.
setbacks? Wait a minute. Did you read the setbacks in, Cheryl?
I didn't because I was referencing the plan, but I will say not to be any closer than 5 feet to the rear property line. I know the plan says 5.5, but I worry about inches. So I would say not to be closer than 5 feet to the rear property line, and that's the only setback we need to worry about.
And just a general comment to the board, when these go to the Registry of Deeds, they don't go with the pictures that are sitting in the file.
Oh.
So conveyancers are very happy to see the dimensions written up right in the decision, okay?
Oh.
Okay.
Second that motion, please.
I second it, John.
And I'm gonna do a poll vote, roll vote. Cheryl,
Cheryl Callie Hollinger, yes.
John,
John Sewell, yes.
Mark,
Mark Sasso, yes.
and Rod,
Rod Stewart, yes.
and Sherry Gould, yes. So you got the variance. Also, there's a 20-day appeal period, which you heard me say to the other applicant. You've been, this isn't your first rodeo.
No, this is not my first rodeo. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
All right, we're moving right along here. Okay, I've got some choices for the last one. Let's see, John, I want to pick on you because you're the newest newbie. Let's try you.
Sure, I just need to recuse myself on this case.
Okay, let John open it and then you can recuse, okay? So it goes on with the right case.
Okay, so, this is case, where's the case number? Well, we're gonna want this favor. Case 953A, the petitioner Nathaniel Daniel requests a special permit / variance pursuant to section 173-10 and 173-31 for a pre-existing non-conforming structure at 6 Emerson Drive.
Now,
And
Jillian.
I do need to recuse myself from this case.
And you're supposed to say what your conflict is. Is it a financial conflict?
Not a financial conflict, but our families are close.
Okay, thank you.
Is the petitioner online?
Do I need to leave or does Janet take me out?
Janet will take you out.
I'm not. Natalie was here earlier, but I'm not seeing her now.
It's Nathalie.
Sorry,
Nathalie.
Nathalie.
We've just been emailing back and forth. I don't see her in our participants. She was here like an hour ago.
What's the time? Did I follow up by not watching the time?
It's supposed to be 8.
Yes, so 8:33, she should. Let's look at minutes do we have any minutes to review?
Yes.
Let's look at minutes and see if she comes back on. She might have had some technical difficulties.
Okay, that's May 21st, 2020. You have to accept.
Let's do the minutes. Yes.
Wait a minute.
Has anyone had a chance to review these?
I didn't look at them, I'm sorry.
This is the set that I was late revising because I wanted to parrot the decision that was rendered in this one on the field matter. I believe that the board had already looked at the other matters that are on that set of minutes. And so at the board's pleasure, we can either move to approve them or delay them another month. I'd like to see them approved if anyone has no objection.
I apologize. I had looked at these for last month and I'm quite happy to move on them.
I'm fine with them.
Okay, so let's move to approve them, please. Motion.
I move that we approve the zoning board of appeals August 20th, 2020 meeting minutes.
As amended?
No, I don't even have them.
No, they're the ones that were just sent. They're all.
I just have this one set, so.
Yeah. Okay, second.
Second, Rod.
All those in favor? Roll call vote, John,
John Sewell, yes.
Rod,
Rod Stewart, yes.
Cheryl,
Cheryl Callie Hollinger, yes.
Mark,
Mark Sasso, yes.
and Sherry Gould, yes. Okay, Janet, will you let me know if the applicant comes back on?
I have a feedback. Do you want me to say it?
Yes.
She was not aware it was tonight. She was told it was the 19th.
Can we continue this with agreement of the board because of the misunderstanding? And I think Zooming is very difficult. I missed a Boxborough meeting kind of the same way last week. So can we agree to continue this for one meeting and to the next meeting?
Can I ask a procedural question first?
Yes.
Without her presentation, can we discuss?
No. No, she has to open it. We can't.
Okay.
Okay. Julie, when you said the 19th, was she thinking 19 October, November?
I'm going to ask her.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean,
No, that's what we can do.
if she can come on now, we'll wait 5 minutes for her.
Okay.
You want to ask her
She's
if she
here.
wants to
She
come
just
now?
came on.
Okay.
Looks pretty straightforward.
Here she is.
Hi, welcome.
The email you sent said it's on the 19th. Is today the 19th? What's
No.
today? It's the 19th?
We're the
No, it's the
15th. Today's the 15th.
Oh, the email you sent me said I'm on the agenda for October 19th.
Not to worry, you're here now.
Okay, sorry. Thank goodness a friend just texted me. She's like, they're waiting for you. I was like, what?
And I think the board is satisfied that it's a simple enough matter, so you don't need a lot of preparation. So
Okay.
relax a minute, take a deep breath.
Thank you.
In
Dr.
fact, while you're just settling in and decompressing, I had one more thing I wanted to say to the board, if you'll give me a few minutes here.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Based on the first application tonight, and another thing that happened, and that is that one of you, it was on the first application, one of you texted that you wanted to know the dimensional setback on that deck, and it was texted sort of one-on-one to the admin, who then texted to the applicant. It struck me that our applications are a little deficient in detail as to what documents we need. Over the years, we've generated checklists of documents, and over the years, we've tried to simplify the forms, and we've simplified that checklist right out of the forms. So with all your permission, I have gathered Westford as one example. I'll gather a couple of other towns as another example. And next meeting, we'll have on the agenda a little more detail on what applicants need to submit for these petitions from now on, because it will make everyone's job a lot easier, and it'll make our deliberations a lot easier. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, are you settled in?
Yes.
Would you like me to read it again?
No, the hearing is open. She's
Okay.
sat in her chair, and we can start.
But you do need to appoint an alternate.
Oh, yes, I do.
No,
You don't.
no, you don't.
No, I
Yeah,
have
Jillian
that.
recused. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
but
that's
you got
right.
the
She's an alternate. Never mind.
Okay.
Okay.
But
So,
Really?
I'm supposed to be leading this, right?
Jillian doesn't need to leave, and Jillian doesn't need to recuse. She does not have a financial interest. And the conflict rules that we take all says that they understand that we live in small towns and may know our petitioners well, and still don't need to recuse.
It is true. She's elected to recuse because of the friendship, and you are correct. She's not a voting member right now anyway, so she doesn't necessarily have to leave the room. I think because she recused, she shouldn't input, but she can stay in the room and watch. Okay, Natalie, you want to begin presenting?
Okay. Yes. So we have our house. We live at 6 Emerson Drive. We're on Long Lake in the Long Lake neighborhood. And our roof is a metal roof. So when the snow builds up on the roof, the metal underneath kind of heats up faster underneath the snow, so that when it falls, it really falls like an avalanche. And there's a picture. So I don't know if everyone has these pictures, or I can.
We do.
Okay. So you can see our front door is really just exposed to the roof. So when the snow falls from the roof, it falls on top of like right in front of the door. I mean, the first time it happened, I really thought there was an earthquake going on. I didn't know what what happened. So it's just really dangerous. When we enter the house, I unlock the door first, and then I have the girls run in. When I get really nervous when there's, you know, if a friend's coming over and they're knocking on the door and they're waiting outside, because you just never know when the snow is going to fall. And then there's also icicles that are hanging from the top. So we really just want to add an A-frame roof right just up above the door, so that when we come in, you know, we can go there and be safe under that roof when we unlock the door and walk in. We are working with Henry Whitcomb, so he's in town. So the issue is we're, I think, 26 feet from the road. So that's where we're asking for the variance. And he was saying the roof would be 4 feet out. It's not in the way of our septic at all. And so since I thought I had another few days, so I don't have the letters from my neighbors, but I know I've talked to them about it and they're completely supportive. The only really neighbors that can even see our house are the Ericksons to the left, and Deb Long across the street. And actually, I just texted with Lori today, and she was going to drop off the letter, but she hasn't yet because I thought I had a few more days. So, but they are in support of it. And I emailed yesterday the picture that Henry Whitcomb drew of what it would look like. So it's just a really simple A-frame. We're not trying to do anything fancy. Just protect us as we're walking in the house.
So I was out there this afternoon and checked it out.
Yeah.
I make another observation that you have a side entrance, so to speak, that sticks out probably 5.5 feet from that existing house. So this, even though this would be adding to the nonconformance, it's not as bad, so to speak, as the already existing set of stairs and landing that come away from the house.
Yeah.
I understand your issue with the slippery roof. I have one also. We end up having to pay someone to put roof stoppers on top of the roof. But when the snow does come off as a whoosh, you think it's a freight train coming through.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I looked at it and I don't have a major issue. I think I don't think it makes the non-conforming any worse than it already is. And it solves the safety issue that I think is important as a need for asking for this particular requirement.
Right.
So you believe that the setback will now be 22 feet?
Yes. Let me check the letter. I think it was 20. Yeah.
Yeah. The house is about 30 feet from the asphalt as it stands right now.
But she was just saying the legal setback is 26 feet as it stands right now.
That's where she is now, because you got the little bit of the area next to the pavement belongs to the town.
Right. So if we approve this, we want to make sure that we give her at least the 22 feet or maybe 21 feet or 21 and a half feet kind of thing. If it's truly going to be 4 feet wide, and 4 feet wide seems very reasonable to me as a landing or a doorway. And I can't see that this would be detrimental at all.
So we have to make sure that you give enough, you're asking for enough, because it's not just a landing, it's the roof itself and how far it sticks out.
Right.
And if there's any steps coming down, how far they stick out.
Yeah, we're not even adding any steps, actually. It's just the roof.
I just mentioned that this
the
closest thing to the road is what they're measuring, not.
Okay.
So do you have a step now?
We have one cement step, and that's it. And then we couldn't really add steps above it. We don't really need that. So we just wanted to add the roof.
Okay. So if we gave you no closer than to the lot line than 21 feet, you believe that would be more than adequate?
Yeah, that would work. Yeah.
Not that it matters, but we'll have 2 posts on the away from the house.
Yeah, 2 posts at where the roof starts.
At the corners.
Yeah.
On the drawing.
I'm sorry.
I didn't, I
Oh,
don't think
yeah.
I have the drawing.
That's okay. That's okay.
It came in a separate email, Rod.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know there was a whole bunch. I thought I opened most everything, but I guess not.
John, you want to see if any other board members have input? Questions? No. Do you want to read in the letter, the building inspector's letter, please, John?
Yep. At 6 Emerson Drive, the building inspector says the requested variance for the front setback roof will reduce the setback to approximately 22 feet. Most homes along Emerson Drive do not meet the required setback. That's his comment.
May I make a motion to close the hearing?
Yeah, so just speaking to the board in that regard, there is a new footnote to the bylaw on the 30-foot front setback that said if the average house is either side of you are less, then you can be less. So Mr. Mullen is alluding to that. Unfortunately, she doesn't have houses either side of her, but I think what he's saying is most of the neighborhood is, average less than 30 feet. That's all.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
I will close, and who's second?
I will second.
That,
Rod.
Mark, last year.
I think I beat you, Mark.
Okay. Beat me on the last one, too.
Who's got the second, Rod? I'm sorry, who's got the second,
Rod.
Rod?
I think we're just ahead of Mark.
Okay, roll call vote. Cheryl,
Yes. Callie Hollinger, yes.
Rod,
Rod Stewart, yes.
Mark,
Mark Saucier, yes.
John,
John Sewell, yes.
Sherry Gould, yes. We're getting really good at this game. Okay, and you want to move right to a motion, somebody?
I just have a quick question.
Yes.
It is a corner lot
No, it really isn't.
between Elm and Emerson?
That little street that goes off to the side next to her is really more of a private drive than a street.
What
But
that
it's a private road.
Well, the only reason I asked is I thought there were different setback requirements if you were a corner lot. You could actually be closer to the road.
They are, but if you run the math on it, it doesn't really come into play on a lot this small.
Okay.
And Elm, by the way, is a private way. It is actually a street for the zoning bylaw purposes, John.
Oh, is
Even
it?
though it's a private- Yeah, even though it's a private.
It's about 10
Okay.
feet wide.
Yep. It hasn't been improved yet, but it is a private way.
It never-
Okay, so motion, and good question, Mark. Motion?
I move that we approve the petitioner.
Grant the
Grant the
variance.
petitioner, case 953A, special request for permit/variance pursuant to section 173-10 and 173-31 for pre-existing non-conforming structure at 6 Emerson Drive, and that the new structure be no closer than 22, was it 22 feet we came up with?
I think we're going to
22.
21.
21 feet from
21
the
feet.
front property line.
Okay, I'm gonna just, forgive me, I'm just gonna clean it up a little bit. This has to be a variance because she is creating a new dimensional setback. So we'll take out the special permit language. It has to be a variance under section 173-31. And she's not building a new structure, she's building a roof overhang. And that's all she's petitioned for, and that's all we're granting. But no closer than 21 feet to the lot line, okay?
Okay.
I'll
Board,
second that motion.
Second, and
I'll second that one. I beat Rod.
Cheryl seconded it. So I
Okay.
roll call vote, John,
John Sewell, yes.
Cheryl,
Cheryl Kelly Hollinger, yes.
Mark,
Mark Saucier, yes.
Rod,
Rod Stewart, yes.
and Sherry Gould, yes. Oh, I'm so glad you showed up now. Natalie.
Oh my gosh. I'm surprised my kids are so quiet. I kind of just like ran down and got on the camera. So
You have the town, any abutter or anybody has a 20-day appeal right after the decision is filed. So the building inspector cannot give you a building permit until that 20 days appeal has gone by, but then you can go right ahead and build it.
Okay, okay, got it.
Anybody else, you want to make a motion to close or a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So one thing before we adjourn, because I heard earlier that when we were talking about the first case, someone mentioned they felt funny about, going to go look at it. And I'll be quite honest, I just got out of my car, walked up to the door and knocked on it and told them who I was and why I was there. And they were more than happy to show me what they wanted to do.
Interesting you say that, because I think we stand in the shoes of engineers, and that is for the purpose of their requesting us to look and view these requests. We have a right to go on their property to look at it. And in fact, I think that the petitioner materials that have disappeared over the years said that.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that we should make sure it's there. And being quite honest, if they say, no, you can't look at it, then during the meeting, you go, well, I don't have enough information.
They won't deny it. The only other thing we used to request is that they clearly post their street number, because so many of the houses you can't find. But it's gotten better.
Google solved that problem.
Yep. Okay. So motion to adjourn?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Why are some cases just 173.31 and one are 173.10, like are two numbers? Why would it be both?
So I tried to explain it in the beginning. We have the power to give special permits when the zoning bylaw gives us a special permit authority. And then we have the power to vary the zoning bylaw. There are two standards. Special permits are easier to get. In fact, most of the case law says most of the time you grant a special permit. Variances are difficult to obtain. You have to show that hardship. I've always taken the position that since applicants don't fully understand the difference, it's not a lay concept, I've always taken the position that the cases should be published as both, so that we as a board can move to let them go from one to the other. If it's easier to give a special permit and it fits, they shouldn't be held to the variance standard. But you can't go to the variance standard if you didn't advertise it. So I just tell my admin to advertise both. Now, the special permit is only granted, if you read the bylaw, it's only granted to a structure for which we are changing, extending, or altering a pre-existing nonconformity. But case law has determined that any increase to a dimensional variance takes it out of the special permit and moves it to a variance. That means if you're going up, you're adding more nonconformity. Even though you're not getting any closer to the dimensional line, you're going up and making more of it. Or if you're going sideways, you're making more lineal distance of the violation. So those get transferred to variance. Okay?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Good question.
Sherry.
Sherry,
Well,
Sherry, what about the August 20th minutes?
I just submitted those tonight. That's another one. If you recall, the minutes were complicated because Chuck Bell was here on several occasions. And so again, I wanted to just revise those so that anyone reading the minutes can see the history of what brought him before us to the dismissal, okay, or the denial. And they just came tonight, so we'll have them for the next meeting.
Hey, Cheryl, I have a quick question request. You did say, and I've seen it before, we have various templates for various types of decisions. I'm wondering if you could put one together. I think we could have all used it tonight. Step by step, how we run each hearing. What do we say first? Who do we call on first? As opposed to, I'd probably listen to you do 100 of these, but it's a little bit like being a passenger in a car. You don't pay attention until you're the one that has to drive, and then you have no idea where you're going.
Let me tell you, all four of you passed your driver's exam very well tonight. You all did a great job, and I'm very pleased. Cheryl, I left you and Rod out because you've done this before. I wanted them all to get a feel for doing it. So we'll try to take turns doing it.
But the first time I had to chair a meeting, having not done it at all, was very scary. So it's wonderful that you are giving them practice while you are here to coach them so that we don't feel like we're about to jump off a cliff.
That's great.
I understand what you're saying though, Mark.
I second Cheryl's comments and I second Mark's request.
Yeah.
It would be very helpful to have a cheat sheet to go through, not just for us, but for future board members. And I had not anticipated being on the spot. And your graciousness is appreciated and your assistance is appreciated. But it would help us, help me greatly going forward if we had a cheat sheet and a way to present it in a uniform, organized fashion.
I
Started one. Do you want me to type it and submit it to you, Sherry?
Yeah, sure. I have over the years had that here, and I don't know where mine went, so I'd love to see it, and I can put it together again. Also, I need to tell you that in a lot of the other towns, especially when it's a little more formal, board members are actually assigned a case ahead of time, especially planning board, not so much zoning board, but they're assigned a case ahead of time, which they actually sort of massage start to finish, a little research on it and a little, background that they bring into the meeting. So maybe as we go forward, we'll try to do a little more of that because I think it's fun to do it. And obviously you're all interested in trying to master it. So let's try to make that happen.
Yeah, but knowing ahead of time has its advantages.
And it's quite possible that both Sherry and I would need to recuse ourselves. So having you guys know what you're doing is a wonderful thing.
I
Yes,
believe
for
in
all of us.
baptism by fire. I'm sorry.
Some of us learn best that way.
Okay.
Sherry, will you, are you distributing the decision writing? Just so that I know up front who to be
Yeah,
hounded?
I've got Jillian on.
Okay, so it's whoever moderated, they're gonna write. the
Moderated,
decision.
yeah.
That's
We don't have
I
a
will-
decision on Manchester, correct?
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is,
Correct.
I'm gonna send you, I think I'll send you the generic decision format from Bill Farnsworth, but also the reason I picked these 4 cases to try this on, they were all very simple cases. I probably have recent ones with the preamble under the Zoom requirements, so it's easy to follow and just plug in names. And I'll send to each of you a case. I guess all of them would be dimensional variances, and I probably can just find a sample and send it to you, and you'll have to change the names to protect the innocent, but I think you can handle it, okay?
Right.
Perfect.
Do we get any Halloween candy tonight?
I know, do you remember when Charlotte used to bring in delicious things? Yeah, I'm still waiting for a motion to go home.
I move we adjourn.
Second
And,
that,
second,
Mark Sacher, second.
okay, roll call, Rod,
Rod Stewart, yes.
Mark,
Mark Sacher, yes.
John,
John Sewell, yes.
Cheryl,
Carol Kelly Hollinger, yes.
Terry Gould, yes. Thank you all, fun night.
Right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Take care.